What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. Now, if it's your first time coming to hang out, let me quickly tell you what's going to go on so everybody can be on the same page for the episode. The name Buds, Bros, and Superheroes acts as placeholders for the sections of conversation we're going to be having today. So in the Bud section, we usually talk about some marijuana news. Today, we have some news on marijuana. That's right, heading over to High Times again, I brought up an article for me and my guest to talk about today. In the bro section, I haven't talked to my guest since we went to school together. It's going to be super cool. We're going to talk about all the fun times we had there, some of the fun times we had on the radio, so it's not even your first time behind the mic. Very much looking forward to our conversation, and then to finish that on out, we are entering the superheroes section in what is The Watchmen. Who watches The Watchmen? Well, we watch The Watchmen. We're going to talk about the Zack Snyder-filled awesomeness that it is. My name is Nick James. Thanks so much for tuning in. And please, everybody, give a warm welcome to the first time sitting in the guest chair, but probably not the last. A round of applause, if you will, for Parker. Parker, welcome to Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. Thanks so much for coming to hang out.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really excited to be here and be able to sort of do a not quite radio show, but a little, microphone thing with you again.
Great, yes, because we have been on air together. Exactly. We'll get into all that coming up on this episode of Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. If you're interested, lock on in. We're going to start this episode the way we always do, by entering into the Bud section. The Buds actually usually hold stories of travelers of the green. I myself have been traveling for quite some time, but Mr. Parker here does not travel the green. But no fear, guys, we have had guests before. We don't do that. We are still going to have some awesome news. I really want to get your opinion on this, but I would like to start the way that I do of what are we smoking on? So it's really more, what am I smoking on? And I got some INSA. That is the grower processor here in Pennsylvania, if you haven't heard of them. And then they have their strand of runts. It is super duper amazing looking. I know that you're not a connoisseur or know anything, but like when you get that deep purple in there and stuff like that, and that nice aroma that hits you the second the can opens, it's pretty awesome. It is good stuff. Just wanted to shout it out there. To move right on to the story at hand at High Times, man, I wanted to get a little bit of your opinion on this. The headline reads, hip-hop mogul Jay-Z invests in cannabis retail platform Flow Hub or Flow Hub? Flow Hub? What do you think? Flow, not flow.
Why flow?
Because flower is usually what we call marijuana. So like we have a bunch of cannabis products that range in flower, or it could be a concentrate like I showed you. It could be a vape. It could be a topical like a hand cream. It could be an ingestible like a capsule or an RSO, or in states where it's legal, you can even buy a cookie and ingest it. So I think flow, just because maybe flower, but flow sounds a lot better because he's Jay-Z and he's got flow. What do you think?
Or it could also be airflow.
For what? For the breathing in of cannabis? Because all right, so what I should say is Jay-Z is officially backing Flow Hub, a much needed platform that allows legal cannabis transactions to be done without cash. That's a big deal. I am an employee of a medical marijuana dispensary right here in Pennsylvania, and we have a cashless app that we can take that we've only really kind of heard sketchy shit about. So mostly I'm going to say the one that I work at is almost cash only. So it is a much needed type of thing. How would you feel about putting your bank account into something new that Jay-Z's investing in?
I feel like because it's Jay-Z, there's definitely a bit of name recognition behind it, which would give it some form of authenticity that you wouldn't really see otherwise. But I'm a little shocked that most cannabis transactions are cash only. You would think that by 2021 we would be able to be doing this on credit cards or debit cards or anything like that.
I am no expert, though I am trying to be, and if it is my understanding is correct, it has to do with the federal legalness of it. And then how do you get a bank account? How do you promise Visa? Like, oh yeah, we're going to pay you back. Oh, what's your income? It's something that's federally illegal. And they go, fuck you, is what I understand of that's why we can't do it, because technically still it's a Schedule 1, Class 1 drug. So you can't technically pull out a bank account for it, I guess. I'm not 1,000% sure if you can't tell, but I'm almost positive it has something to do with that.
That makes sense, I suppose.
It's very strange. So the article goes on to say cannabis point of sale platform FlowHub announced on Tuesday that closing of a 19 million round of strategic funding, including significant participation from venture capital firms Headline and Poseidon, as well as a personal investment from the entrepreneur and hip hop billionaire Sean Jay-Z Carter. So side note, how do you feel about Jay-Z? Do you like his music?
I don't really listen to him too much, to be quite honest. You know me, I'm mostly a metalhead, but I do listen to some hip hop every now and then.
Not to bleed too much into the bros section, which we will get to, but I still have WCLH in my car, and every Monday when it comes on, I'm just like, Parker, because it's Metal Monday there on there, and that's how we met each other. So that's funny that you said that. Personally, I think it's great that somebody, like you said, with recognition in name is also willing to put their name on it. Just kind of it's going to make it a little bit more standard of just like, oh yeah, now he's doing it and he's doing it. Everybody's doing it. Kind of like the same way they have their hands in liquor. And when I say them, I mean people of power and position over many in terms of influencing. We talked about on the show once before, Seth Rogen. You know, he's in what I consider a they of putting their face on something and just making it more normal of what's already been done the time and time over in alcohol and stuff like that. You know, almost everybody's got their own. So it'd be cool if this kind of gets over. I know that it would be cool for us in Pennsylvania because we're locked into one shitty platform. For those who don't know, like when you go to a register, it's called the POS system because it's a point of sale. But a lot of people also know that when you call something a POS, it means a piece of shit. In this case, we have that same all in one. The Venn diagram is not. It's just two overlapping circles. Our point of sale is a piece of shit. So it would be cool. I was looking on it. Anybody can go over to their website and see what they do. And it looks very similar to it does everything. We have to have people making sure who they are and when they're coming in and put into a queue and rung up and information on inventory and stuff. Like, it would be cool. And then it would also be cool to be like, hey, see how fast that was? Thanks, Jay-Z. So they're really happy about it. I'm pretty happy about it. I think it's going to be cool. I hope that it makes it this side. If not, we'll see something soon. But it was a super short bud section this time. We are going to close on out the way that we always do, asking, what are you guys smoking on? If you want to leave a comment, go ahead and do so in the YouTube section. If you want to tweet us, we have one of those. We have a Facebook wall. Jesus, we have almost everything. If you want to get in contact with us, we have one of those. Just go ahead and do that. We are going to close on out of the bud section and head into the bros section. We're just going to catch up a little bit. So, as alluded to, if anybody's around from the area and to WCLH, all right, I know that. Those are the call signs for the radio station for Wilkes University, where we first met. Kind of going through that. Dude, we spent a lot of time in that university together. We were both on the paper, we were both on the radio, both did stuff for the television show. We were both triple concentration communication students.
I did all four.
Fuck, you're so smart.
I'm really not, though.
I didn't go for rhetoric. I was just like, no, I don't think I got time for that. But
rhetoric was brutal. Oh my goodness.
It really was. Meaning to say, we had a lot of time to spend together. So with that, it was kind of weird to stop seeing each other as much. I think I was 1 or 2 semesters. Like, I don't remember how it went after COVID happened, like when you actually graduated from that. But I was just a little bit before you, right?
Mine was spring 2020. You were spring 2019.
Okay. So yeah, after I left, it was just like, oh, now what am I doing? Where'd all my friends go?
There goes my daily coffee, buddy.
Correct. Oh, dude, have you seen that fucking Dunkin' has shut? The one on the Wilkes-Barre Square? The last time my wife and I were down there doing whatever, I think we were actually there to get DP dough. That's like have you tried that?
I have not had them. I've heard of them.
But they're where the other guy used to be, which is a horrible description, but like the side of his building was the mosaic of the fruit and the water glasses. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. That was Dino's Pizza, right?
Fucking A. Yeah, that's gone now. That's DP dough. Anyway, we were down there, also headed into the dollar store, and we were like, fuck it, Dunkin's right there. Closed Rooney. I think between you, me, Mott's, Fritz, a bunch of people, it's just not open no more.
You weren't kidding when you said that, like, the 6 of us combined probably accounted for at least 80% of their sales.
It had to be a pretty good amount. And I can't imagine, I guess all the business now goes not even technically to Starbucks, it goes to Barnes & Noble. Because fucked up kind of fun fact, did you know that you cannot use a Barnes & Noble gift card you cannot use a Starbucks gift card at a Starbucks that's in a Barnes & Noble, but you can use a Barnes & Noble discount or a Barnes & Noble gift card in the Starbucks. Barnes & Noble sells Starbucks. They are not a Starbucks. They offer you their product. They're like a weird... Somebody explained it to me once when I went to a Barnes & Noble, and I was like, oh, I have a Starbucks gift card. And they're like, you can't have that. No. And I was like, the fuck is going on? They're like, no, if it was Barnes & Noble, I could take it, but I can't. It's just too much. I was like, okay. Because I don't really like Starbucks. How do you feel about the Bucks? That's what the cool kids call it now, right? They just head over to the Bucks.
I'm not a fan of it either. I find a lot of their stuff to be a bit overpriced. And,
yeah.
It definitely took a dent on my wallet whenever I was there. But, it was convenient because it was right there. Like, it was literally across the street across the walkway from our main building that we were in.
That's true. Yeah, I forgot. So I guess, if most people aren't heading down to the one in the Barnes & Noble, they have to get it from the school now, and that probably clogs up a bunch of shit. Man, we need to open a coffee bar down there. Oh, I wonder if that one is down there. Pour? I think Pour was the name. That was so fucking good.
Yeah, there was Pour, and then there was also Abide.
Oh, yeah. Abide was also really super nice.
Yeah, they were
big ass place.
Good.
They used to be a bank. So like imagine how big a bar needs to be to serve coffee and then like fill the rest of that space with just sitting area because it was the size of a fucking bank lobby. It was huge. It was good though. I liked it. So aside from coffee, we did a lot of communications there. We did a lot of radio there. So go ahead and tell us about like what you did there for the radio and how much do you miss being live on the radio?
I remember when I first met Nick. It was one of these WCLH trainings, like the first semester. Kristen got back after she had her kiddo, and it was, one of these sessions of like basic stuff. Like, oh, here's the right way to talk into a microphone. Here's like some basic things to say and not say, and vocal technique and all that. And I remember seeing this guy with a big beard and backwards white cap, and never met him before, and I thought he was a little bit of an intimidating, scary guy, and I remember he just turns, looks at me, and he's like, "Hi, I'm Nick. Nice to meet you." And I'm like, "What?" And then from there, we both did radio there for 3 years.
Yeah, 2 and maybe 1 extra semester. I don't remember what I had to end up doing, but it was a little bit longer. I thought I had like 2 flat years, but I think I was there for 1 more. The more I look back on it, and like, especially when I have to build a resume, I'm like, what was I doing that year? Like, I can't pin down, like, I know where I've been, but I can't tell you what year it was. Where my father-in-law is really good at that, dude. He'll be like, oh, I was working here, and so it must have been this year. And I'm just like, damn, dude, like, I don't know years for that. But I think it was just about 2.5, maybe 3 full years of hanging out. Doing we and you started, or not started, but we were the most enthusiastic. You started more the third chair. And from there, I was like, oh, I want to do this a lot with you. And I showed up as often as I could. We started letting, quote unquote, normies on the radio. People who weren't signed up in the radio, didn't have the time to do it, but if they wanted to put together a show and come on, you would sit in one chair, I would sit in the second chair, and they were welcome to sit in the third chair. That's where the name came from. And that was a good time, dude. We got to hang out with a lot of professors that we wouldn't have gotten to talk to otherwise.
And a lot of professors that really didn't do much outside of, their department, and this giving them an outlet to sort of really be themselves and just have fun.
I found myself a few times just, doing the opposite, where they'd want to talk about music and stuff. And I'd be like, oh, you teach blank here? Tell me a little bit about and I'd ask, me, I'm fucking stupid. So I would just ask questions that were involved in what they were doing, but just in the worst possible way. And one time the lady, I remember, she's just like, you ask very interesting questions. And I was like, I know. So that kind of leads me into something maybe I wanted to talk about in the bud section. Maybe I didn't. But were you ever aware, going to school with me, by maybe the thing on your face and between your eyes and your mouth, your nose, that I was a traveler of the green before I told you today?
No, I already knew at Wilkes.
I assumed almost everybody did.
Not through the smell or anything.
No,
but not that there was a smell, but it was just I think you said something about it before at one point. I was like, yeah, good shit, man. That's cool.
Yeah, because even as you said today, I'm not somebody who does it. I don't really mind being around it either. So we were always cool talking about it and me saying, but I always felt like, did you ever watch Charlie Brown or see like the Christmas, Thanksgiving special? You know, enough to kind of to know the kid who was always dirty. Yeah. And therefore, he had a cloud circled around him. Though I'm not particular, I think I'm rather cleanly, but you know, anybody who travels the green knows that when you're combusting cannabis, it has a very, very distinct odor. When you have, like you said, I did, and I do, a big beard, it kind of sticks to everything, especially in the winter. Then you got to keep your piece on you. And I always just assumed I was like that kid where everybody was really polite and didn't say anything, but everybody was just like, oh, Nick must be here. And then they'd hear the door open. You know what I mean? Because I did try to have spotters once or twice to be like, bro, if I start to stink too much, can you just like give me a little notice and I'll fuck off? Like, because I'd have to spend times in like teachers' offices and I'd be like, I wonder if I stink right now.
Oh, God. I never even thought of that.
Ew. Yeah, it was all the time on my mind. So I had like a little kit. It had like eye drops. It had gum. It had a little bit of Febreze, a little bit of body something. I don't know, spritz, I called it. I had like a 5-plan system.
If it's any consolation, most of the time you smelled like a normal human being from what I could tell.
I appreciate that. It's so funny to go down there anytime though and just like look around and be like, oh, I like that alley. Oh, I like that alley too. I know a lot of alleys in and around the downtown Wilkes-Barre, just where I've had to go to travel the green in between classes and stuff like that. And yeah, once again, I was always just so worried that somebody's going to be like, and not like one of like us, but one of them, if you will, one of the teachers or administrators, just somebody. Because one time I was all the way down. I think maybe I had graduated. I wasn't doing school stuff, but I had just come from what I said alleys, and like somebody from the school was face to face with me, and I was just like, there's no way. I didn't do any of my 5-point stuff because I was so far away from the school, but they were coming down for coffee, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm not getting away with this one. So it's funny that, no, you didn't say anything, or not, or it's funny that you didn't notice anything. What else do you remember about school?
Also, I mean, I have a very bad nose. Like I'm very bad with smelling, to be quite honest.
Oh. What else do you kind of miss about being at school? Do you miss anything, actually, you know?
I miss the people. I especially miss the folks in our department, like, you know, from like the classes from 2018 to 2021, you know, because that was, our department was popping. You know, it was a lot of very active, engaged people. And it was also a small department. It was like, what, maybe 40 of us?
Tops between the 3 years trying to get in, yeah. Because freshmen have all their stuff to do. But even then, by the time they were starting, it was small. I think we said it once before, communications. So the great thing about it was my first semester there, no Carambella Center. My second, through the rest of them, Carambella Center. Those who don't know what that is, or to explain, the Carambella Center was what they made for us, essentially, to kind of take all of our stuff and put it in one. So the newspaper, the radio, the multimedia stage/production. What else am I forgetting? Speech and debate. What else am I forgetting? We had a fucking viewing room in there. It was cool, like movie theater seats at one point.
Mm-hmm.
It was really fucking cool. So yeah, when you say it was popping, it was a great time to be there for sure. Because eventually, you know, it'll be like what we had to begin with in terms of by the time they get it refurbished again, I don't know, it'll be like 2050 something. Who knows?
Something like that. Yeah, because I originally started off in computer science. I didn't become involved in the communications department until like midway through my sophomore year. But I distinctly remember the radio station used to being on like the 3rd, 4th floor of the Dart Center.
Yep.
And the hike that would be.
Not only the hike, but all of a sudden I just got the memory of going there to have my show on a day that I didn't have class. So I would wear basketball shorts and then jeans because it was cold, and go there and duck into the corner and take off the jeans so I can wear basketball shorts. because it was the hottest fucking room. Maybe on the entire campus was the radio station, was right in there.
Oh my God, you're right.
And I just remember the first day being there and like everybody's like, yeah, having fun. I was just like, because I still had like full winter attire on, not knowing it was a radio station / sauna up there. And then when it moved to the news center, it was cool. We were right on Main Street and having people walk by with the radio station playing right out front and shit. It was a good time.
Yeah, definitely that transitionary period. You know, I feel like part of what made the department so engaging for a lot of the folks in it was before the Carambella Center, everything, you know, like I said, TV, newspaper, radio, etc. All that was on literally 4 different corners of campus. So when they moved everything into the one building, a lot of us really got appreciation for everything being in one place. And it's definitely helped with, you know, the high activity levels and engagement, because before, you know, collaboration would be kind of difficult because it'd be all over the campus.
And like we brought up, to be in this discipline, to have this major and 4 different disciplines, it was quote unquote easy to like do multiples at once almost, you know, because some overlapped. Not easy, but I don't know what it like. Definitely not easy. What's the word I'm thinking of? Not convenient. It just made sense, you know, like shit, I'm going to be here anyway. I'm going to put in so much work anyway. Yeah, it just worked to do more than one, if not all 4 like you did. Like that's really shooting the fucking moon though, if I have to say.
So,
but to get through them, it also helped to be in their relative outward groups, i.e. the paper, the radio station, the production studio. So like you were talking about, when they were all spread out, you were doing it all and were traveling all around, and then they put it into one building, and it was just like, thank you. That is so much more convenient. And the synergy, it just, you know, it's a real fucking thing of just like, all right, out of the radio meeting and right here we are. Hi guys, like right into the newspaper and shit like that. And it was awesome. Yeah, great fucking time to be there.
A lot of the skills and stuff you would use for one would be applicable for another. So it just sort of made sense to do a bunch. And, and again, the people were just, at least in my opinion, I didn't have an issue with anyone in our department. Like I love just about everyone there. You know, it was just a lot of good, down to earth people who were, you know, hardworking and just wonderful to be around. Like there were a lot of incredibly driven folks that were in our department that I'm glad to be able to know.
Me too. I didn't go to homecoming since, but the more and more I stay away, the more and more I'm like, maybe I'll go back one day, because I do miss some of the teachers, you know, and like you said, some of the people would be great. It's been a while, as we say here, since I've seen you. So it's been a while since I've seen other people I'd love to also see, and it'd be great to go down there and meet everybody there and really catch up. I guess that's one of the things about like absence makes the heart grow fonder. You know, when I was there, I was like, I'm finally getting my degree and I'm getting out, because I graduated high school in 2008. I graduated college in 2019. I'm not a fucking doctor. I didn't go to school for 11 years. You know, I'm not a physicist or anything, or like nothing like that. So I was like, I'm getting in, I'm getting out. And now I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'll go back. Maybe I'll think about it. So I'm sure in just a few more years, I'll be like, when's homecoming? Let's get going.
Yeah, I was just at the one this year.
Nice. Who would you say, like, you had a good time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was good.
Nice. That sounds great. Maybe you'll see me there next time. I want to see the old studio. I spent a lot of time in that building. Like you said, it just made the most sense. If you were going to put your toe in, fuck it, just jump right in. And that's what both of us really did. Spent a lot of time in that building, man.
Yeah.
A lot of good times in that building.
We definitely essentially owned that building with how long we were in there.
I felt like that. Hell yeah. There was times where I saw janitor staff and they were like, did you leave? And I'd be like, I don't know. Did I? You know, like there was only 6 hours between when I saw you last. Was I here or not? Just because, once again, sorry to beat a dead horse. It just made sense. Like, I might as well just stay here, because then the building was so new, so comfortable, and just so easy to use. All the technology was there. It was so fucking clean.
It was nice.
Because the library there is really nice in terms of how big it is, but like that shit's old and you can fucking see it. So it was great to have our own space to really just whatever we wanted, you know?
Especially the
kids in
bubble.
a candy store, but not being an asshole about it.
Mm-hmm.
Really respectful kids in a super nice candy store, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, like you said there, to finish this off, that was perfect. Right in the smack dab middle of everything was what we called the bubble. I don't remember. Didn't they have like a quote unquote real name for it?
What did Dr. Stein try calling it? I think it was like not the collaboration room, but it was like a.
That sounds right, though. Something like that.
No, it was the. What
I want to say multimedia again, but that sounds wrong to me too.
What's that word for the convergence? The I don't remember.
Something.
I agree. It was something with a C.
Agreed. But they wanted to call it something funny, but we called it the bubble because it was almost like in a newsroom. It's situated everywhere. There was just glass walls and two entrances in and out for doorways. So though you were there and you could see everything, you couldn't always hear in and out of it. So if you were in there having a conversation, those on the outside really couldn't hear you. So it was like a little bubble in there of just like, oh, I don't want to be doing this right now. And the teacher would walk by and you'd be like, hi.
Yep.
Miss them. Good times.
I didn't answer you before and I apologize about that. But what I miss most, aside from the people, would have to be Metal Mondays. I don't think there's another radio station, college campus radio station that I've heard that had an entire day dedicated for heavy metal music.
24 fucking hours in a row, you turn on 90.7 and just get
every Monday.
I don't mean to belittle it, but that's what it sounded like most of the time.
Yeah,
you like metal. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's
rambling.
No, you're fine. It's just metal is a very close-knit community, kind of like our department. You know, whenever you see like if you're a metalhead and you see, you know, another, you know, if you see a guy in a grocery store wearing like a Slayer t-shirt, you'd be like, oh fuck yeah, Slayer. Oh, well, what's your favorite album? Have you seen them XYZ? And it's like meeting an old friend.
That's fun.
And that's why Metal Monday is so popular, is because, you know, all these people are like, oh, WCLH has a whole day for metal. No one else has that. So that's why, you know, Kristen always said, you know, people loved it.
That's funny because that reminds me of two things. One, that's how the comic book world used to be a little bit. I'm not saying it's getting watered down, but maybe it's getting watered down a little bit of like, oh man, that's a great shirt. That's fucking Superboy shirt. And they're like, it's Superman. And I'm like, well, no, it's a black shirt with a red S. That's just Superboy. That's Connor Kent. And they're like, no, it's just a black Superman. And I'm like, that's okay, bro. Have a great day. Like, I'm not going to fucking argue with you. You know what I mean? So that has happened. But the other community that it still reminds me of is also the Travelers of the Green, where you see somebody who's got, you know, a 420 shirt on or a 710, and you're just like, hey, buddy, you have yourself a great day or some shit like that. So it's fucking funny. I can now appreciate that just that little bit more. That's awesome. I too miss being on the radio and just being like, hey, I'm going to talk to you about like exactly what I'm doing now. Shit that I know that's not important to anybody but me, but I'm on the radio, so I get to say it. It was a good time.
Yeah, because the great thing about college radio was that really you could talk about whatever you wanted to within reason. But like that's something that you wouldn't be able to do at like an actual FM radio station. Like you would have to play the music that's already in the rotation. On our station, we would just be able to bring in like our playlists and then play the
plug in our fucking phones as if it was, you know, a college party. We treated the radio station broadcasting to tens of thousands of people. As long as they didn't curse, and if they did curse, you hit off the on button. So if somebody was going to go, you know, I don't know. So if somebody was going to say, hey, fuck you, and you know that's coming on, when they say, hey, you hit the off button, the fuck gets said, but it's not broadcast, then you hit the on button. And if you knew the song well enough, you can even get away with it that way, dude. Like, that's how much trust they put into us. And that's why I also say very polite kids, because I'll say again, I don't remember one time, ever once, having anybody ever call in or be called out for being explicit, ever. Mm-hmm. So we really took that shit seriously, but with all that seriousness of knowing, yeah, we got to talk about and do within reason of not being obscene, whatever we wanted to do. And after I left, I had a job at a radio station for just a little bit, doing a little bit of producing on talk and doing a little bit on the popular station. And like, fuck that, dude. no offense to them. I'm happy they're happy, but I didn't want to do that of just like, this is what they tell you to talk about. And you got to post to social media about every 45 minutes and make sure to use these hashtags. And then you have to do your image. And I was just like, oh man, no, I was hoping to do more kind of like what I'm doing now. And I'm just going to do this right now because I get to say whatever the fuck I want. And I asked them more than once too, like if you wanted to start your own podcast, like could you start it and bring some of your followers? Like could you announce on the radio, like, hey, everybody, Nick James is heading on over to a podcast called Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. And they're like, no, not really, because that's an ad. And then do we charge you? And it's fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's definitely a whole different beast. But we'll say with that, with turning the button off for curses, I think I became an expert with that because every metal playlist I had, there was at least one song with curses. And I would go through every song before the show and timestamp when they were, and then I would just hit the button exactly when it would pop up. Mm-hmm. I had that down to a surgical precision.
Did I hear something? No, you didn't, and I'm fucking positive. Or you should have said, and I'm positive. Mm-hmm. You cursed yourself out and blanked it. That'd be fucking great.
Yeah, that was Mel Mondays were the best, man. It reminded me so much of the Sirius XM Liquid Metal station, which is all metal, and that's the only station on Sirius XM that has metal.
Well, yeah, it's all. Yeah, if you're gonna put all of it somewhere, it's all got to go there. That makes sense, and that's why it makes sense too for Metal Mondays. That was great, dude. I'm happy they're still doing it. Happy everything's there. Like I said, I'll probably see you at a reunion sooner or later, or homecoming, whatever the fuck they call it. Because the more I get away, the more I'm like, you know what? It was actually a lot of fucking fun. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. Do you guys miss college? Do you guys still keep in touch with your college buddies like I'm doing right now? Or has it been a while and you got to get in touch with them? Let us know. I don't know why you would, but you can in the comments. You could tweet us, Facebook, all those fun things. Like I say at the end of every section, but I'm going to say it again. We are closing out of the bros section. We're going to get into the superheroes section where once again, we're answering who watches the Watchmen. Well, we do because we watched the movie directed by Zack Snyder. Fucking beautiful. Let's get into that right now. Alrighty, so for anybody unfamiliar, we are talking about the movie Watchmen. Came out in 2009, rated R, coming in at 2 hours and 42 minutes. The little IMDb description says here, in 1985, where former superheroes exist, the murder of a colleague sends active vigilante Rorschach into his sprawling investigation, uncovering something that could completely change the course of history as we know it. Directed by the man, the myth, the legend, one of my favorite people ever, maybe one of my favorite directors ever, Mr. Zack Snyder. Does a beautiful job. Top cast here is Jackie Earle Haley as Rorschach, Patrick Wilson as Dan, aka Night Owl 2, Carla Gugino, Sally Jupiter, Malin Ackerman as Sally Jupiter number 2, kind of definitely Lori, but we'll get into that in a second. Billy Crudup as Dr. Manhattan, Matthew Good as Adrian Veidt, and then finally Jeffrey Dean Morgan as the comedian. Lots of people in between there. If we bring up their character, I'll try to bring up their actor, but no promises. With all that out of the way, when I said to you we were trying to figure out what we were going to fill our sections with, kind of come in with a bit of a game plan. We were bouncing around different things, and eventually I was just like, dude, what's your favorite comic book movie? And you're like, Watchmen. Like, we were texting back and forth, and like it was immediate. You were like, Watchmen. So want to get into that first and foremost of when do you remember seeing it? What do you like about it? Just kind of go ahead, geek out a little bit, man.
All right, so this is going to be kind of a long-winded answer, but I originally saw it, I think, sometime in high school. I don't remember the exact year, but the reason why it was so immediate for me was because that was back during a time when I didn't like movies. And it actually wasn't until my sophomore year of college where I started getting into it. Side story, when we watched The Godfather in that English class, that's sort of what made me get into movies, because up until that point I hadn't really seen a good movie, and so I didn't really like them. But Watchmen stood out to me because that was a movie I liked during a time I didn't like movies. What I liked about it was how it felt real. You know, I remember one time when we were discussing the Marvel movies, how the Marvel movies are was it superheroes? No, people learning how to be superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the DC universe is superheroes learning how to be people.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's much more interesting to watch superheroes try to be people. And that's really what Watchmen is. It's just a bunch of people. A lot of, pardon my French, fucked up people. It's
Absolutely. Yep.
It's about the human condition. It's about how these are heroes, but all of them have fatal character flaws. Each of them are human. And that's really what I enjoy about more than anything. Stuff like the Marvel Universe, while I enjoy watching those movies, it just doesn't feel real to me because it's hard to really... It feels too cartoony. How should I say? While with Watchmen, it's very, it's grimy, it's visceral, and it's edgy without being too edgy. And that's what I really enjoy about Watchmen. It feels like something that could actually happen.
Agreed. Yeah, I was watching something on the Avengers and they were talking about Tony Stark, just, pick a lane. Are you too hurt right now to barely keep up with the conversation, or are you going to keep making Build-A-Bear jokes? Or mention, call the bad guy Squidward, where I feel like if somebody had to be heroic or stand up to somebody tough, no matter how cocky they are, the funny side wouldn't come through. It'd kind of come through with fuck you, what are we doing here kind of stuff. Pardon my French as well for that. Like when you said they are fucked up because they are totally that. And when I think about the real world of who would put on a suit and vigilante, somebody who's a little fucked in the head, probably to begin with. The movie starts out pretty Zack Snydery. Lots of slow-mo, but really gorgeous because it's placed perfectly where we have an unknown assassin taking on Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who may be in real life, but I think they put on a little bit of padding for him. I know he's quite tall, but I don't think he's quite as big as the comedian, if you will. But they have him fighting and stuff, and he still looks like he can kick ass. And so it's like there are some scenes where it's ha, 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 and then one big swing will go slow-mo, and you're just like, I remember sitting in the theater watching this. So 2009, I was in Disney doing the internship, downtown Disney, in their AMC watching this. And I was just like, this was at a time where my comic book side was wishy-washy at best. I just graduated high school, where I don't remember who I was talking about, but you didn't show up to high school where everything was not about high school. It was all about looking cool, being cool, and hoping somebody wants to fuck you. And you don't get any of that, at least at that time, from going, does anybody know who Rorschach is? By knowing comic books. Because even at that time, even maybe now, I don't know, it just wasn't cool. Point blank. Keep the story simple. So this was at a time where I watched this and I was like, oh, I'll tell anybody I saw this movie. This movie was fucking crazy. From there, my roommate in Disney found a motion comic of the comic book. And we'll talk about it at the very end. You mentioned before off mic that it's very faithful adaptation, which a lot of it is, except for one key element. And when I saw that at the end, I was like, what the fuck? Bought the book, because in downtown Disney there's also Barnes & Noble. I deep dived, in a weekend, I learned 0 to 60 about the Watchmen really quick. And you're right, this is a movie that's just, if you haven't seen it, folks, it doesn't matter if you like comic book movies or not. It's not any of that. It's its own beast. It's beautiful. And it's just really well written. I love it. I love Zack Snyder too, though, so I know how fucking biased I am. From that fight we were talking about, we are introduced to Rorschach. What a fucking character, dude. He's got a mask that's white, and then it's got the ink blots, the Rorschach test, but as he kind of talks and breathes, it moves. What a design, dude. How, what the fuck? Go ahead.
Yeah, it definitely stands out. And, I really don't want to say that Rorschach's my favorite character in the movie, because it's just, it's so common to be like, oh, the masked fucking crazy guy in the movie, people love. We see that in a lot of movies. It's always, the guy whose face you can't see is one that people are interested in because, there's always something innately mysterious about them. But Rorschach just carries the movie because it's really about his investigation into why all of the other masked vigilantes are getting killed off.
He provides the narrative of not only the book, it's one of the great things that they put in from it that a lot of the times loses in any adaptation from book is when you're reading a book and you get a thought bubble, it's their fucking thoughts. There's no interpretation. You're reading their exact thoughts. So to have him have his thoughts and put it to journal that are then VO'd throughout the movie. So you get Rorschach's journal. And you kind of get his same perspective. So yeah, it's very much all about him and his point of view through damn near most of it. Dr. Manhattan also gets a lot of voiceover time. So there is a lot from his perspective too. But like Rorschach, dude, I want to go into a few fan favorite moments, if you will, with him. We get through his origin, which is just gnarly. Eventually, and spoilers, sorry guys, I guess we should have started. He is talking about a day where he himself, what's his real name? Walter?
Walter Kovacs.
Thank you. Where like he's talking to a therapist and he's like, Walter's dead, dude. Like he doesn't say dude, he's much more serious. But he's like, Walter's dead. I'll tell you about the day he fucking died. And it's the day he realized a child, I hate the word. I hate even talking about it. But a child rapist abducted a little girl, did what he did, dismantled her body and fed it to a dog. Dogs, maybe. And like he's like, that's the day Rorschach was born, 100%. When I realized like if that can happen to a sweet innocent child, like they'll never see what's going to happen from me. And like it's fucking metal. That's a crazy. Sorry.
It's like when he said earlier on in the movie he saw society's black underbelly, and as soon as he saw that, he couldn't look away.
And just we talk about quite often. In a detective who goes around beating people up, grappling hook. I mean, there are some similarities to Batman, if you will. Just stretch a little bit with me. However, Batman understands the importance of Bruce Wayne and still believes in a part that there is a small part of him that is Bruce Wayne. Very small, mostly in the same vein, if you will. Batman was born the day his parents died, but maybe there's still a little bit of Bruce Wayne is what I'm trying to get at. Where in this, no. Walter Kovacs is who I pretend to be like, and I barely pretend to be him. That's why I don't talk like, you know what I mean? Like, he is a seriously far invested character and super great. I love he's finally quote unquote arrested and he's in jail and somebody's going to fuck with him and shank him. And he just deals with him in his own gnarly way. I'll leave it in case anybody hasn't seen it, but super duper metal. And he's got this line that to this day, when he says it, I could still get a chill because I do believe there might be people like this where he looks at a room full of murderers, prisoners, people who he even probably put there and he says...
Most of them were put there by him.
And what all of them wanted to fuck with him.
Yeah. And he, after he knocks this guy to the ground, he stands up, looks at everybody. I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
Oh, man. I can still get shivers, and I'm not even bullshitting for fucking effect, dude. Like, I'm not locked in. Oh, my God. Can you really, truly imagine saying that to a room full of people and meaning it like, let's get one thing straight, you know? Like, oh, it is so goddamn metal. He is such a character that's like, oh, you know, most people are like, oh, I'd love to hang out with Superman. Or even, like, once again, to bring up the Dark Knight, like, it'd be cool to hang out with Batman. I don't want to ever meet Rorschach. Even in a friendly circumstance, I would not want to be in the same room with him. Like, oh, man, that is a character that just like,
Rorschach definitely has psychological issues, but it's also like his response to, you know, what happens to that little girl. That's something that is, you know, how do I word this? That's not an abnormal reaction to seeing something so horrific.
It's not. I would have to agree. Yes, it's a very nice way of saying it, but like, no, I don't think he was blowing it out of proportion, especially too. There's just so much backstory that we can't go into, but he had a hard growing up. Society, life for him was never easy, and it's just one of those characters who really, truly went all the way there and lives at the bottom of the muck of I've got to clean this up because even the most hardcore people can't do what I do. Super badass character. he works a lot with Night Owl, or do they technically call him Night Owl 2? So the thing that I love about Watchmen is by the time we enter the story, it's like 1985. Richard Nixon's the president for like the third term, so that's how you know it's an alternate universe. There's different things that happen, and there has already been the Minutemen. So anybody who really loves DC, it's almost like the Justice Society being the precursor to the Justice League. So the Minutemen being the precursor to the Watchmen. So there already was a Night Owl, and somebody took up the mantle. And also we could talk about, there was a Miss Jupiter. Is that what it is? Sally Jupiter?
I think it was Miss Jupiter or Silk Spectre.
Thank you. Silk Spectre, yes. Sally's Jupiter then gives the mantle to her daughter, Lori, to be the Silk Spectre too, who are both characters who, even though we talked about them being fucked up, they're probably the most stable ones. And they have a great story throughout the entire thing. Both characters, I love to right away jump to their scene. They've just had a date and they're thinking, ooh, maybe we should do some superhero stuff, you know? And they get attacked by that gang and they just fuck them up in the alleyway. That's a great scene, isn't it?
Oh, I love the interplay with that scene and the other scene that's going on as it's happening.
It's, once again, just to kind of bring out Zack Snyder and how awesome he is, just juggling all these characters and doing it so beautifully. The one that he might do the best is Dr. Manhattan. Big shout out to Billy Crudup, who has to do this performance of being someone who knows all and can see all and is all at once, and he really fucking sells it. He really sells that whole Dr. Manhattan thing that was written so beautifully in the book. Shout out more, but who do you think your favorite character is then?
Mine's probably Rorschach, but Dr. Manhattan's a very close second because, you know, in every superhero universe, you have that almost omniscient, omnipotent, you know, superhero who can't die. You know, in Marvel, you have Captain Marvel. In DC, you have Superman. In Watchmen, you have Dr. Manhattan. But he's still written in a way where he's still human. But in his case, it's his lack of being human.
Which is the thing, yeah. A lack of something is still a something, in a sense of like choosing not to decide is still a choice. So sometimes he knows he's making human decisions and knows he's only doing it because I was human once, I guess. Like, I should do this just because, but that doesn't mean, you know, it is a decision. It's not. It's carrying through the motions of just someone who's tired almost. Just like, this game is boring now, you know? It's just so easy for me. It's I see stuff smaller than you can even imagine. Like, he has a line of, I've seen events happen so small and so brief that other people wouldn't have even know they've occurred at all. It's like, that's fucking, they write it so beautifully and he sells it so beautifully. That scene where he gets ripped apart as well, his origin story, once again, beautifully done. Another one, you talk about faithful to the book and stuff. That was really great. You think, would you do it? Would you go in the machine to get godlike powers like that?
No, because with him, it shows that there's a cost to it. Because throughout the movie, it's also showing him drifting further away from his humanity into being completely alien.
Which, I mean, eventually he does, just for the fact of, maybe I'd do it, because it would be cool to go to Mars. He just pops up on Mars and builds shit. I'm like, that's kind of cool. Maybe. Probably not,
yeah,
though.
But I feel like because he can't die, that novelty is going to get old really quickly.
Novelty, yeah.
It might, you know, on a scale, it might be like, you know, by quickly, I mean like, you know, thousands of years, but it's still going to get old at some point. And when it gets to a point where you know everything, what's the point?
That's what eventually we see him get to. And it leads to, and I won't get there right yet, but it leads to the finale of the movie and how, I'm not going to say it makes more sense than Alan Moore's version, but I see why they changed it, and I do also like an alternate version. One character we haven't brought up yet was Adrian Veidt, Ozymandias. Thank you so much. Oh, God. Ozymandias, who, once again, guys, so sorry, but giant spoiler alert, he's the bad guy. He's the one who attacks Jeffrey Dean Morgan in the beginning.
But is he the bad guy?
Fucking A, Parker. Like, I saw your face and I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a good, like, is he really the bad guy? So the story goes, he's doing all of this because in the background of all this superhero bullshit is still the real world, even if it's a fake alternate version where Richard Nixon is still the president 3 terms in a row. Where it seems as if nuclear holocaust it's coming. If not, like we have this death clock, atomic clock, something of what's it called?
I think it's the doomsday clock.
Thank you once again. And the closer it gets to midnight, it's a giant symbol for how close we are to getting to the point where everybody's just going to blow each other up. And throughout the entire flick, like it's 5 minutes away, it's 4 minutes away, and eventually, to get to a long story short, Ozymandias frames Dr. Manhattan to be somebody who blows up certain parts of the world so that our, meaning regular people, our squabble, our watch of this doomsday clock of us blowing each other up seems insignificant. Now we just got to kill the big blue fuck. What a great twist on that. I really didn't see it coming. So as I said, when I saw the movie, I hadn't read anything yet. What did you feel when he reveals his whole big bad plan, and he even has the line of, do you think I'd really tell you this all right now if there's any chance you could stop it? Like, it's done, motherfuckers. Like,
I did it 32 minutes ago.
What a James, or the opposite of James Bond, if you will, where the bad guy tells it, he gets it is brilliant. I love it.
I love that line, and I feel like that encapsulates Watchmen, because it's a superhero film without being a superhero film, because it just destroys that trope.
Absolutely.
It takes it and just blows it up. In this case, literally. But
now, if I'm not mistaken, in the book, it's still Ozymandias who still wants to bring on a threat to make us all see that we shouldn't be fighting each other. And it comes in the form of a weird giant octopus starfish looking monster that also kind of looks a little bit like the nether regions of a female. I'm just saying, it might just look like a giant, and it has this impact of psychic energy that just hurts, if not kills, people everywhere. So with that in mind, and with the story that we just told about how he frames Dr. Manhattan, what do you think about the choice to maybe steer clear of a giant octopus, nether region monster, hentai, something?
So I've never read the book or the comics or anything, but I feel like I prefer the Dr. Manhattan framing because it adds more nuance to the story, because introducing something like a giant tentacle monster at the very end of the film, that's a Deus Ex Machina right there. And I hate those. One thing you're going to learn about me is I hate movie tropes. And I like seeing them deconstructed as often as possible. And Watchmen does a very good job of that, which is why I love it.
Very, very true. It would have been a lot to ask. I mean, the audience was already on a 2.5 hour ride, and to kind of end it with oh, you didn't see this coming, because you really didn't see this coming. I very much like it. And, Dr. Manhattan more or less said, I was going to fuck off anyway. I don't really mind not being here. So see you later. And then we get one of the hardest scenes in the movie where all of this happens almost exactly like what we're saying. But Rorschach now goes fuck that. I can't let everybody live in this peace. And it's awesome. I love Patrick Wilson. We talked about him, plays Night Owl. He's a great actor. I like what he's done in the DC. We see him a lot. We saw him as Orm in Aquaman. He's worked with James Wan before in The Conjuring. I like those movies. Anyway, I like him, and he's it's peace. His peace built on a lie. And Rorschach's just I can't. I'm going to have to let people know. And sacrifices himself in the fact of you have to kill me. I'm not going to stop. Kill me. And Dr. Manhattan does, and Patrick Wilson lets out this, it's blood curdling a little bit. You feel that shit. And then his blood also looks like a giant Rorschach, his blown up body, a giant Rorschach of blood in the snow. Super duper poetic, super well shot. Fucking love this movie.
Yeah, I think it's it's poetic how Rorschach, the one who's probably the most mentally deranged of the quote unquote mentally deranged groups, also probably the most pure in terms of his morality.
The people deserve to know the truth, period. I know it's going to send everybody back into nuclear peril. However, that's what the truth is, period. So there are parts you, like you're saying, you're like, well, he's right.
Yeah, because like with Ozymandias, is he really a villain? Because this is the ultimate case of the ends justifying the means. Yeah, he blew up, 12 major cities or something like that across the globe? But in the end, that secured world peace and prevented the entire world from blowing up. So
every single city, correct.
So it's sort of, yeah, this is awful. But he was kind of right?
Shout out to Dr. Zerpentine, man. I wish we could talk to him right now. He was our fucking philosophy teacher. Had him on the third chair to kind of bring this full circle. And it reminds me of, that thing where you're standing for whatever reason in a train station up on a platform, and right at a fork, you see 5 people on a road, or you see 1 person on a road, and you could decide which, or not the road, the track. And you could decide, well, is it 1 or 5? And it's like, well, obviously you should kill the 1 person because 5 people, 5 lives or more. And some people are like, well, that makes sense. And then you're like, well, what if they're 5 prisoners on their way to get executed anyway? And then you're like, well, it's one of those things of, was blowing up 12 major cities around the world worth saving all of them? And you're always going to find people who go yes and no. And that's why, like you're talking about in terms of tropes of this movie of like, what they saved the day technically, but did they? I don't know, man. It's a good conversation, and this movie once again, sorry, but fuck, I love this movie.
Yeah, and with the train tracks, not only pulling the lever for it to kill 1 person instead of 5, but by pulling that lever, you directly sentence that 1 person to death.
Correct. It had to go one way or the other. Yeah. And then you're brought in to move it. Yes. That was the whole. Oh, yeah. I remember I once read a book. It was called Batman and Philosophy, where it was like, well, if it was the Joker on one side, and I was like, oh, this is just a philosophy book when they're trying to use Batman as a lens. Like, I thought they were going to read a bunch of Batman and then talk to me about how to live like him, like the philosophy of Batman. But no, that wasn't it. All in all, about how you love the movie. Anything else that you like to say? We usually like to give ratings here of, I call them school ratings because I don't know what else to call it. Of if you're going to give Zach and Company an A, B, C, not a D. I don't know why. No, D, not an E. Why is there no E in the rating schedule? Why do we go straight to F?
You would have to ask whatever person in academia in the 18th century came up with that idea, because I have no idea.
Maybe we didn't like the E back then. Anyway, how do you feel about the flick in general, sir?
Overall, I'd give it a 4 out of 5. I love it. It is fantastic. And again,
I call that a B then. Yeah, 80% B. Nice. Mm-hmm. I put it up just a little bit higher because once again, Zach's great. So I just love his style. I love that. Now we're kind of seeing it in a time where, yes, he's also put out a 4-hour Justice League movie. We've seen other movies go 2.5 hours. Not in 2009, we didn't. For him to stay as faithful as he did took all that time. And he said, we're doing this right or we're not doing it at all. So I give him just points for that. I think this is a solid A. I like that you wanted to talk about this because what we're talking about in terms of breaking down tropes, it's hard to be like, oh, what's a good comic book movie? And be like Watchmen. And then they watch and like, that was hard to watch. I'm like, yeah, isn't like... It was so, I don't know, it doesn't have those tropes, so therefore it's kind of not for everyone.
It's a comic book movie, but it's also a deconstruction of a comic book movie.
Yes, very much so. Very well put, man. Well, guys, that was just a little bit of The Watchmen. We can't talk about it all day. Those were some of our favorite parts. Put some of your favorite parts down in the comments, anything like that. That will wrap us up for this episode of Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. But before we get out of here, man, thank you. It has literally been a while since we've been talking and get to hang out. And I was like, when do you want to do this? And you're like, I'm free tomorrow. And I was like, fuck yeah, Parker. Like that means a lot to me. I say it all the time on this show, but it doesn't mean I mean it any less of like time we've all only got 24 hours in a day, man. So for you to spend as much as you have here today producing the show, hanging out, bullshitting away, really means a lot to me, dude. So thanks for coming out. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for talking about Watchmen with me. There's a whole show. Maybe we should watch the show and you can come hang out. We also talked about talking about The Boys. I like having people rotate in and out. I always say for people coming for the first time, I really hope to see you around, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's honestly, it's an honor to be here, because I know you've always been in the podcasting and, all of this, and just being able to sit in on your show, your baby, and, you being so excited for me to be here, it just makes me just so grateful to be here. Thanks, buddy.
You got it. And I mean it, man. I'm so grateful to have you here. So grateful to know, you want to come back, you're always welcome. Appreciate you being on the roster. Appreciate you putting in the time, the info, coming and hanging out. Really, truly. The same goes for you guys on the other side of the mic. Anybody out there listening, I really, truly appreciate that so much, but also truly appreciate the interaction. If you can, once again, we try to look for interaction in the YouTube comments, maybe on the Facebook, the Instagram, but if you can't do any of that, I get it. People got people are busy and shit, so word of mouth. If you got a coworker, a babysitter, a best friend, lady at the store clerking you, I don't know. If you know somebody who likes Buds, Bros, and Superheroes, have I got a fucking show for them? I've been Nick James. Well, I've been hanging out with a good pal, Parker. Buds, Bros, and Superheroes are out of here.